Hey, Truth Seekers, thanks for tuning back in. Today I want to talk about HAARP and the conspiracy of some entity controlling acts of God, as they're often dubbed, such as tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, what have you. The question is, does man have this capability? Is it even possible? Back in 2005, after Hurricane Katrina, that was the first time I ever heard anyone even propose in my lifetime. At that time, I was 22 years old. That was the first time I'd ever heard anyone propose the idea that man was manipulating the weather and Hurricane Katrina was an act of man. And at that time in my life, I was already questioning a lot. I was certain that 9/11 was a lie, and I was trying to get to the bottom of 9/11 still at that point. And hearing that Hurricane Katrina was an act of man was really interesting to me because what I noticed in the build-up to that event was how the media was telling us what was going to happen a week in advance. And then when it did happen, how horrible the response was. If you can recall, the people of New Orleans suffered. There was no emergency response. It took days because of how poorly it was handled. All these other unnecessary things happened. And I thought, well, wait a second. If our media was telling us a week before it happened that this very well could happen, I mean, they were really preparing us if you go back in time and remember, then how come the government wasn't ready? How come the government wasn't ready to go in there? Doesn't make sense, does it? Just like all these stories. So, with that information over time, since then, 2005, it's been almost a decade, I've picked up on quite a few other stories, and I've been starting to think more and more that yes, maybe they really do know how to manipulate the weather. A lot of people might be thinking of the name Nikola Tesla right now. Supposedly, he theorized about ways of doing this kind of thing with, what's he call them? Extremely low frequency waves, ELF waves. Nikola Tesla supposedly had this theory that extremely low frequency waves, when shot towards the Earth or bounced off the ionosphere and back to Earth, could cause these very powerful occurrences. I've heard a quote that he said that it could split the Earth in two, but I don't know how much of this is just nonsense and false quoting. What I can tell you about the name Nikola Tesla is that in gematria it sums to 11/9. Things such as star as David summed 11/9. Right away, many of you might think of the Berlin Wall or September 11th. Very curious numbers, and if you've seen my posts on science and religion, I've showed how both are equally coded with 33. So Nikola Tesla, I suspect that he is likely another one of these false entities we know who is credited with all this stuff that's really from other people's work. And for whatever reason, they have to go through Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein or Darwin. They do. It just makes you wonder. And if you guys aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, you should read my post because I have a lot of information on this. And when you start to look at everything I have compiled, it becomes quite concerning. There's also a lot more on Nikola Tesla, including the day he died, besides his name, but I don't want to get off topic. I want to stay on this. So many of you in studying this topic have heard of HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. The idea was created in 1990, and the facility was constructed in the year 93, a curious number. That's the number of Thelema. The word Saturn sums to 93. Saturn is said to represent Satan. Okay, so HAARP. The acronym HAARP also sums to 44 in gematria, just like the word kill. Kill and HAARP both sum to 44. It's located in the 49th state, Alaska. Alaska's abbreviation becomes 111. The word itself sums to the single digit 9. It's the only state that sums to a single digit, the first method out of all 50 states. So that's unique about Alaska. It's got the 11s and 9 connection in its name, 49th state. If you guys haven't seen my post already on the Hoover Dam and what happened yesterday with the World Series, you need to check those out. I'm going to link them down in the comments. They're directly related to this. Also, recall the Hoover Dam, it originally cost $49 million to build. Next year, nearby Glendale, Arizona will be hosting Super Bowl 49. 49 is the number of revelation. Now to get to the proof that something very bizarre is going on with weather, I want to look at this spell of tornadoes, record-setting spell of tornadoes, 3 days in the year 1953. 3 days in the year 1953. The numerology of these days, I've done the math. They are 31, 32, 33, the ranging degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. The other thing that's interesting is the other way to get the numerology for the date is to write it 6/7/53 and then add 6 plus 7 plus 53. If you do it that way, the first date sums to 66, another important number. The next date would be 67, yet another important, and then 68. These are all numbers the Masons like as well. So these are very interesting dates in numerology. They have some special numerology going on. In this record-setting set of storms for 3 days that went across much of the nation, it was reported that 113 people were killed in Flint, Michigan. That was the highest death total. That number 113, look at it. 11 times 3 is 33, just like the highest ranging degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. In Ohio and Michigan, it was reported 110 were dead. Another number they like. The World Trade Center buildings were 110 stories tall. Lake Mead, which sits behind the Hoover Dam, is 110 miles long. We just completed the 110th World Series, which for whatever reason the Hoover Dam has a major tribute to. So that's interesting right there, right? But that's not all. That's just part of it. The next biggest outbreak of tornadoes in the history of the country, also very curious, April 3rd and 4th, 1974, it was dubbed the super outbreak. The gematria of the name super outbreak sums to 55. In this super outbreak, over the course of 2 days, notice it ended April 4th, 44, like the word kill, like what HAARP sums to. 148 twisters. The numerology of 148 is 1 plus 4 plus 8, which sums to 13. Notice it took place in 13 states, and it was reported that in total, 330 deaths occurred. This year, 40 years later to the day, April 3rd, 2014, there was a major outbreak of tornadoes throughout the Midwest, and Glendale, Missouri was one of the hardest hit places. What's interesting about the name Glendale is that it sums to 33 in gematria, and Glendale, Arizona, on the 33rd parallel, will be the host of Super Bowl 49. Okay? Super Bowl 49 is going to be played February 1st, the 32nd day of the year. What I wonder is what we will awake to on February 2nd, the 33rd day of the year. Okay. What else do I got here that I want to show you? Okay, so more stuff from history. The Dallas tornadoes, recall in 2012, it was 55 years apart, and both on a Tuesday, that these massive tornadoes happened in Dallas. And the thing about the 57 tornado in Dallas is it was a very unique tornado at the time. It was the first tornado to be recorded and filmed as it was. It allowed for scientists to study tornadoes after that. If you research it, you will find the same information. It was a unique tornado, and it was again in 2012. In 47 and in 2013, 66 years apart, there were major fertilizer explosions in the state of Texas as well. Also, think about Hurricanes Ivan and Katrina, which happened 7 years apart. Both of them were the two most devastating hurricanes to the country at that time. That's been surpassed by Hurricane Sandy, which was 21 years from the perfect storm, another multiple of 7, 3 and 7. But also, Ivan and Katrina, I is the 9th letter, and K is the 11th. Isn't that interesting? I and K, 9 and 11. So the other thing I want to show you guys is just how they even code this stuff into the movies they make and present to us. So, in 1989, a movie was released called Twister. It's 93 minutes in length. Remember, 93 is the number of Thelema. HAARP construction happened in 93. The word twister sums to 33 in Gematria. That movie was written and directed by someone named Michael Almereyda. Michael has the 33 Gematria, Almereyda has the 39. Recall that New York and Arizona are the only two states with a 39 Gematria. Goes back to the Bible of 66 books, 39 Old Testament, 39 signers on the Declaration of Independence. Bunch more than that, but that's just some of the really relevant ones. It's set in Cleveland. Cleveland has the Gematria of 33. More recently, in 1996, another movie named Twister was released. This one was not a comedy. It was more of an action drama thriller. It went 113 minutes, 113. There's that number again, 11 times 3. Directed by John de Bont, 31. His name sums to like the foundational degree of Freemasonry. Michael Crichton, another 33 name. And then the other writing credit on it is Anne Marie Martin. Anne Marie sums to 44, like HAARP, like kill. Martin sums to 30, put it together, 74. And then the release date was May 10th, 96. 5 plus 10 plus 96 sums to 111, just like the abbreviation AK or HAARP is. So in total, guys, the message is, I know it's a lot to comprehend, it's a lot to keep straight, it almost seems overwhelming probably for a lot of you, but what I'm showing you is that they're coding their numbers into all their stuff that pertains to what they're doing. And what I just showed you isn't it for all the evidence of what they've been doing with natural disasters. On my written blog, I have so many posts, I can't even go back and find them all. Because back before I even understood really this gematria or numerology thing, what I did see were these patterns on calendars. And I thought, wow, how can that be? I mean, that seems beyond the control of man. Maybe God really is a numerologist. You know, some people say that to me. They say, well, don't you think this could all just be God? Maybe this is how God does it. And my response to that is, it's possible, but no, I don't think that's what's going on. The reason I don't think that's what's going on is because I don't think God's asking people to make these movies on these dates. I think that's more the product of people with sinister intentions. And you just look at this world we live in and you can see that it is led by people with sinister intentions. So please pair this knowledge with my other posts on the Hoover Dam, 1989 San Francisco Earthquake World Series, and even what just happened with their win yesterday, coming 66 days after the San Francisco earthquake of August 24th, 2014. World Series in Gematria also sums to 66. It should be noted that the USGS, which keeps track of earthquakes and this type of thing, also sums to 66. You see how they got it? All right, guys. Until next time.